the Spider Queen, and Gale Force found it. So now it's just, well, who can play the most clean? Who has the smoothest play on Cursed Hollow?
Roll20 used to like this battleground, but stopped picking it after they kept losing on it. So it's not a favorite of Roll20.
I feel like Cursed Hollow, historically, like just from a, not just North America, just like the world of competitive players, at least those that I've spoken to, always view Curse as like, yeah, that's like the map where the better team wins, or then they immediately go like when they're winning on it, and then immediately when they start losing, be like, nah, the tributes, like it's hard to predict, like it's just luck, man.
RNG.
Yeah, it's like, it feels like it's like so love one week, hate onto the next, that I'm not surprised whenever it ends up being a favorite or at least favorite for any team.
Last time in this position, Gale Force banned Genji. There's also an Uther possibility here. Maybe, I don't think they will ban a global. Actually, as I say that, man, I did not think they would want to ban that, because then they would either get Dahaka or Abathur. But they ban Abathur, Genji's going to be taken by Roll20.
Yeah, so what is this rotation here? The Dahaka, what for Gale Force? Do they need the Uther, probably? Dahaka Uther? Dahaka Malfurion, you can move into the Medivh later, but there's no reason to move into the Malfurion before the Uther. With the Anub, okay, the Abathur ban leads to emphasis on the globals. It's Gale Force eSports at high priority globals on any map that it's viable. So yes, this is 100% Dahaka, and it feels like it's got to be 100% the Uther.
But they're thinking. I mean, it could be Greymane too. Greymane or Li Ming.
They're just waiting it out so long. It's obvious that they don't agree.
Okay, Dahaka Uther.
It's just an interesting how I just thought there was no way we go 40 seconds. Like it's an instant lock, or it's like we're never picking those two. But it's going to be locked in here. Tassadar Vala as well for Roll20.
Well, Gale Force did leave their support all the way to the end of Curse last time, so it seemed like there were a lot more highly prioritized heroes for them on this battleground than making sure that they have their support, because in this same situation happened where both Uther and Malfurion were up. They let it go through the Ariel. What about Tracer? There's so many scary things.
Ariel,
there's Illidan, but Gale Force probably takes that. Yeah,
Ariel is a problem, not Tracer. If Gale Force banned Tracer, I actually might lose my mind. I would be very surprised if they move that route. The number one ban that stands out to me.
Oh yeah, because there's Genji up there.
Yeah,
for some reason I thought that was a noob.
It's just like, oh, you know, that would be, it's possible. I mean, I've seen crazier strategies, but it would literally be like, oh my goodness, Gale Force. I didn't think they would commit to the Ariel though. They go for it, they don't want to deal with that. So now, they are going to pick Arthas, or they're going to pick Illidan. Yeah, so there's the ban on Arthas. This is 100% an Illidan pick on the side of Gale Force now. You're into a task that Arthas was banned. Roll20 has to be baiting this Illidan really hard, but what counter do they have in their pocket? Because you just gave up both globals, you volunteered to lose the holy, like, trifecta, and now you're leaving an Illidan that you baited, essentially, Gale Force into. This is, you know, you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
This is stars aligning way too perfect for this. So what is the counter?
Are they, I mean, we're looking at Justing and Buds as the last heroes.
Varian's not enough. No support's enough. I don't know. I'm scared for Roll20. That's all I feel right now. If this Illidan picks up in this rotation, and just any reasonable backline to be able to help him out.
Varian taken with it.
No way.
Varian Greymane. They don't take the bait.
They instead give it up. Illidan's going to go over to the hands of Roll20. No, they can't. They have to go Warrior support. They can't. Why
Is this
not?
the return of solo support Tassadar? Kappa.
I wish. I'll be honest, I wish. Not really. Solo Test was actually really scary. When Fnatic made that a thing on Tomb, it was actually, I hurt my brain trying to figure out how you take that strategy down. So for frontline, I wouldn't mind the Diablo. We have a noob gone. Stitches could be picked, but it's not that appealing.
Justin's playing a lot more Muradin at the mid-season brawl.
And then support, you can expect it with Uther and, Malfurion's up, so. Brightwing and Stitches. That's the answer to the Illidan?
I don't think it's Illidan
Well,
now.
not anymore, but that essentially was why they transitioned their draft the way that they did. They intended to move into the Brightwing early on if they had moved that direction. It just, Roll20 here, I feel like they were aiming for something really heavy with their draft early on, and it kind of just was like, oh, that's not going to work, as the draft was respected by Gale Force. Because, I don't know, it's a long conversation, so I'm not going to go over all of it, but essentially how Roll20 drafted that, no matter what, they committed to something that was uncommon because they were trying to bait it and it wasn't taken, so they have to show it anyways. Essentially is what this is. Not completely, but they have to show at least some of the thought process there, and they did with the Brightwing and the Stitches.
What's left for, it's either Li Ming or Lunara would be my guess. Li Ming because they comboed the double reset last time on Cursed Hollow versus Team Naventic 2.
I'm really surprised that we saw the gray main rotation for Gale Force. But then it's not like Roll20 rebutted with, you know, an outstanding pickup there. The Brightwing solo support is going to struggle, but she does at least have the Tassadar to try and aid. What do you think?
I like the Gale Force draft. I like their Li Ming and Greymane was very well executed between Fan and K1 Pro yesterday. K1 Pro's Li Ming was off the charts awesome. I'm wondering if we'll see Gale Force do the same type of thing that they did yesterday versus Naventic, which is just stall out the first tribute for as long as humanly possible without dying, and then keep their Dahaka soaking. It's not going to have necessarily the same effect as the Illidan did, and they got very lucky with where the Giants were. Yeah,
and they also were convenient in the lane mismatch, which that doesn't exist. Brightwing, see, we've talked about this, but Brightwing is not a global because she loses every 1v1 and because you lose every 4 versus 4 when she's not there because you have no support. Like, she can teleport across the map, but that doesn't make her an effective global, and especially into a hero like a Dahaka on the other side of the table. It just goes, she stays off on her own, she'll sit in the lane, Dahaka will push into her until she TPs, he can TP. He won the 1v1. He gained value, so she loses the whole time.
Does have the mismatch then.
Yeah.
Like they did yesterday.
Yeah, they do have the lane mismatch into their favor. That is correct.
All right, so let's get into the game. We're tied 1-1 between these two teams as we head into Cursed Hollow. We'll see you there.
I just hope Roll20 proves me wrong here, especially with Buds there on the Brightwing. Because, you know, Fnatic proved me wrong. They had a couple of polybombs, or not even polybomb strategies, just flat-out Brightwing strategies, Stitches, hooks, isolation compositions that worked out pretty effectively. So much so, I would expect this to be Emerald Wind, not going into the Blink heal.
Yeah, that's what we saw. It was even on this Battleground, right?
Yeah.
They executed that.
They also had better follow-up, more than just the Brightwing. It wasn't just here's Brightwing and some other heroes. Force Wall into the composition of Gale Force. Varian's pretty successful at surviving on his own. Dahaka is pretty good at surviving on his own too, but they both are technically vulnerable to Force Wall, so that's another follow-up we might see Roll20 venture in towards.
Maybe even Rain of Vengeance?
I actually want the Rain really bad. I think it's going to be a must. I don't mind on Force Wall, but I really think that it's going to be an absolute must that we see Rain of Vengeance coming out from Roll20.
Gale Force eSports opening up with the tri-lane in the bottom lane. Roll20 doing the same in the top, so now it becomes a battle of who deals more damage. Got the Brightwing, Tassadar, and Vala to keep Vala healthy and sieging, and then the steady siege of Gale Force here.
It's doing a good job. The tri-lane ship for Roll20 is going to be better. Just Vala and having 2 cross supports, it's just there's nothing that Dahaka can do. He can barely be able to move up. Greymane is pretty effective on his own, but the wave clear between Genji, Li Ming, and Uther is honestly non-existent, which is why you see Roll20 being more effective. They can rid of the minions, which means they aren't tanking nearly as much, and they get onto things faster. But now that they managed to get the minions stacked up, you're going to see TP on Brightwing. They're going to go for a pick. They're trying to zone off here. I respect this call from Roll20.
Poly hits. There's an Arcane Flare. Akaface with a big heal to hit K1 Pro. They will zone away Gale Force. They don't get a pick, but they save the fort.
That's exactly what they needed to do. I love that. That was so clever here from Roll20. Now they cycle down a third member. Usually that's going to be Stitches to make sure that doesn't die. Otherwise, it's essentially wasting time, right? That you got the teleport, but if you forfeit it over completely, nobody from mid is rotating out. But Gale Force doesn't care. They don't even question moving up there. It is a risk, especially if Stitches didn't show. And they're more concerned here about the Giants. Roll20 is picking up theirs. Gale Force is picking up theirs, so it's just going to be even. But again, Gale Force has the global advantage because Brightwing is the non-existing global that is a global.
Brightwing is in a setup to maybe stay for a little while and contend with those Giants in the bottom lane. But if Gale Force can force up Brightwing to phase shift for some reason, then in that case, may be able to just take the fort down with the Giants. They're even moving into position to do there. There's only Brightwing here, especially with a lot of Roll20 trying to take out more structures in the mid lane. So this gives Gale Force some time before the tribute spawn. Yeah,
this is really nice, but Roll20 has, instead of saving the fort, wants to get the turrets off onto the side. It's not going to be as much experience as the fort, but it's pretty close. It's all about this tribute here. Dahaka staying up on top, trying to rid of the Giants. Genji will rotate down for Roll20, so this is a 5-man rotation for Roll20, and we're waiting on the follow-up from the Dahaka. Nice hook here.
Yeah, that just shows that there's just not a whole lot of follow-up yet for those hooks existing for Roll20 in the composition they have so far, but later on, once they get the heroics, they will be able to add to that.
Dash over the wall,
Dahaka.
Trying to pressure out. There's Dahaka, nice polymorph. He still has the drag though. Who we go for? The fault dodge is perfect. Coming out from Prismat, Justin throws out the rebuttal hook, but the members of Gale Force are healthier than that of Roll20. Wait a minute, Brightwing's passive healing. You see the value it's getting here. One argument for Brightwing on Curse is, in fact, early tributes. Pre-9 tributes, she's actually very good if everybody deathballs. You see them grouping, clumping. Ariel's one of the only supports that can keep up with her, and that's only if you have an effective battery. So this is a nice abuse of, you know, the Brightwing pickup here for Roll20. One of her few advantages they're getting value out of.
It still is all 5 members of Roll20 down here while both Dahaka and Greymane are soaking. So the longer Gale Force can stall this out safely, the better for them, but it was not to be had. The zoning of Roll20, thanks to the healing of Brightwing, finally they can step forward in zone long enough for Roll20 to get the first tribute.
The main focus for team fights when looking at how Roll20 approaches it, it's obviously any hook into polymorph blow-up is ideal, but let's say they can't get that and they need to force a different way. It's going to be teleporting on top of Glorong and timing it his initiation onto the Genji and then making sure you polymorph Uther. You never polymorph the kill target, especially with modern Uther. Old school Uther, once in a while, it was worth it, especially post-16 with Criterize. But now with Guardian of the Ancient King, screw that. You're just going to go into flat-out polymorphing the Uther, not letting him get the heals, and trying to make sure they get the kill target on whoever Genji initiated, which for now looks like it's been Li Ming.
Different Stitches build to compensate than what we've seen so far. From the norm, really, a lot of the time at the mid-season brawl, but also even from King Caffeine, adjusting, having more of a safety Stitches build, getting dampened magic. He also has an amplified healing, and then his tenderizer to be able to add some slows.
Another beautiful juke there from Roll20. Like Udali, both times he's coming with a brush shocker. They've been effective positioning. It's just flat out nice response coming up from Roll20. Gale Force is split here on this transition upward. This is never something that you want to have happen on these type of tributes. You all have to approach through Knights the safe route, otherwise it's a very easy split choke. And Roll20 is abusing that. The Uther and Greymane both are not transitioning out, showing that they are not moving to the tribute. They're gonna give it up.
Great, again, soaking of those abilities. Here comes Brightwing to phase shift in, immediate polymorph 2, but a shield wall does get off. It's still not enough to save Varian, so Varian is a kill in this fight. Michael Udall using his essence to heal, stay healed back up despite taking some light damage. But look at what Roll20 have been able to achieve thanks to their soaking in lanes, but more importantly, being able to get that fort down. It's netted them a level lead, and they're about to get heroic abilities.
Gale Force, though they may have the global, they're not doing well when it comes to the macro sense of the game. Roll20 here just completely abusing the Tassadar Vala Brightwing early game pressure. And now it's all about rotating out the bosses here. Tribute spawns on top next to Roll20 on the boss that they're obtaining with 10 advantage. Man, that could not have gotten better.
Could not be better.
It's so just like, oh, thank you. This is, yeah, we'll take this curse. Thanks. Oh, it feels so good when that happens. But now they have to focus on the boss on bottom. That is something that one member, maybe two, might focus on getting rid of. And Gale Force, or excuse me, Roll20 still needs to push with this curse.
I wonder if the safety Stitches build is because he wants to go for Gorge for more of that isolation. Even though there wasn't Emerald Wind from Buds, he still went into Blink Heal. But they have the Force Wall, so in the event that Stitches can get a Gorge on somebody, they have Force Wall behind it, and then polymorph from the target once they come out of the Gorge.
Yeah, they went into Strafe and they didn't go into Emerald Wind, so I personally definitely think that's a tool that they need. I think Gorge makes sense now, just because, again, we talked about Force Wall and how that's like, yes, it's a tool, but is it really going to be that impactful if without Emerald Wind? I mean, it feels like you would need it. Divine Storm, and that is the Chain CC. Gale Force gets the pick during the curse of all things. And now they've got 20 seconds, so we're going to find ourselves Tassadar back. Roll20 hasn't managed to make anything happen here with the curse.
Justin Snap hit Putrid Bile in that and dropped it down too, sort of like, ah, I'm scared, and dropped down Putrid Bile. So that was also used and was strafe. With Divine Storm being the only big heroic to be used, this is a really good fight, potentially for Gale Force 2. Taunt hits Genji out of Dragon Blade, and he is blown up. And
now you see Udall getting the adaptation. Another drag, Blink Heal. It doesn't matter. They have the damage follow-up here. Two members have ended up falling. Force Wall. It's going to buy the time for Roll20 to back out here. Cap is desperate. He wanted more, but he does not commit there to the Stitches. The front wall of this keep will now go down. But it's still not that great of news. You know, the two forts still stand here for Gale Force eSports. They're getting a keep front wall, yes, but now this is where Roll20 wants to fight. They're going to look to rebuttal back, chasing with the Stitches and long distance to safety. That's exactly what they want here with this comp.
Drag stops Putrid Bile from getting into the back line, but Justin gets there anyway. Akaface and Michael Udall zoned away thanks to the Force Wall. Again, perfectly placed from Prismaticism. Uther goes down, so does Michael Udall. And that is 2 kills so far. King Caffeine once again stopped thanks to the wall being built. This is actually Goku playing on the Tassadar, so great Force Wall play either way from Roll20.
Yeah, showing that they've got some flex even with the new member there on this roster. And that was just, you know, Gale Force, it's one of those moments where you can understand the thought process, because when they get those small wins, you got to go, what can we get onto the map? And the closest thing is the keep for a wall. It's just when you look at your opponent's composition, you take, again, what territory, what parts of this map do they really like to fight into? Force Wall Tassadar with a Genji and a Stitches is like, yeah, it's going to be when we have no fort, you're overextending up onto the keep, and that led to 3 more kills. So now suddenly, Roll20 is back to the lead they had before, a full level. They're conveniently not ahead up into tributes. Boss is going to be down for a while, so Gale Force should be able to abuse Dahaka to make up for their experience disadvantage so far. But it's not the early game that they were hoping to have. You expect Gale Force with this type of draft to be way more effective early game, unless Roll20 was getting picks, and they just flat weren't. They were just getting out-rotated.
Would you like to have seen Gale Force instead, once they got those kills, rotate straight up and just take down the forts?
It just, yeah, something. Anywhere, any other part of the map. I can see why you go for the keep, front wall. It makes a lot of sense, but if you take the second glance at the comp, then you just go, like, this is what they want. They need this fight, and they're going to take it immediately after this. And you didn't really have any major argument as to why they shouldn't either.
No Dahaka, he can stalk in. Genji's almost here. That is a lot of damage on Justin thanks to the curse bullet, but he lives. Strafe on the back of that. Fan is pulled into Putrid Bile from a hook. Michael Udall stalks in.
Michael Udall goes in. Look at that dimensional shift, dodging the Divine Storm of Akaface. Force Wall laid down, but Goku is, oh man, Glaurung goes in trying to confirm the kill. The counter taunt, and he is dead. Rebuttaling here is Gale Force eSports. Another reset for K1 Pro. Justin is the last man standing. Taunt left up in 5. Curse bullet be thrown out. 3 for nothing. Gale Force, man, you cannot just get greedy or they punish.
Yeah, especially versus Taunt, a Taunt variant. And they have Shattering Throw now for the shielding of Tassadar, so there's no hope of being able to have that as well. He's going to bust right through the shield. Perfect turn from King Caffeine. There is so much crowd control that Glaurung got a little too over-aggressive, a little too hypey, and was punished for it.
And now Gale Force find themselves with that level advantage. The Giants up on top are something they're going to have to attend to before we find the next tribute up. But boss for them is on the map. When looking at Roll20s, they've still got a little bit longer, 1 second.
Oh,
and there it is. Roll20 is going to start it on up. Gale Force, they have to invade now. They're too slow to start their own and take the trade. They're not going to do either.
No, they're not doing anything, really. They sort of waffled around trying to figure out, started heading there. Now they're starting their boss. Tribute is there, too.
Roll20 has the opportunity to time-wise invade, but the 16 is enough of an incentive to make it's kind of their call if they feel like they have a major advantage when it comes to the boss itself. But they don't feel that way. They're going to be able to give this up to Gale Force. And it's a trade. Just buying time for Roll20 to catch up here. Luckily, though, Gale Force is just one tribute away from getting themselves this curse.
Boss defense trading for both the sides. You know what we have for 16. Banner of Dalaran is the only change-up I see from Varian, but in this instance, being able to give extra spell power.
So we talk about on Tomb of the Spider Queen and Cursed, finding the win conditions can be a little bit weird. Gale Force is on a perfect trajectory of having that awkward moment right now. This next tribute, if they capture it and they fail to open up the map as in more than one keep, or at least not apply pressure to anything more than one keep, and especially if they don't get one, you've wasted a tribute this late into the game. You just can't do that. Because now, then boss absolutely becomes your win condition. Nice hook here.
Fishing hook, too. Polymorph hits, but Michael Udall popped adaptation, so he is alive. Gale Force can start to try to turn this, and they do. They take out Tassadar with another well-placed taunt.
Just way too much damage coming out from Gale Force with the taunt, Curse Bullet follow-up. It's swift, and it's deadly. Here's going to be the tribute, and again, this is a very crucial window for Gale Force. They need to minimum one keep with this tribute. Otherwise, they find themselves in that limbo of like, well, tributes are not reasonable for our win condition, so it's only a boss, and you never want to feel crippled and pushed into that. The only other area is taking the keep so you have catapults, so you have that lethal, and more importantly, vision on the map.
Well, Gale Force knows that they've already taken out the towers in the bottom. Oh, fishing hook almost caught somebody from Gale Force. Dahaka can maybe push one of the other lanes. No, it looks like he wants to just come in and hope that they can maybe get a pick from someone to end this, especially with the taunt. Damage not quite all there to take down somebody as tanky as Justing, but they do use Curse Bullet.
Yeah, I missed. Now look at Justing. There's a force wall. The drag was used. Hook goes down, hits a giant. Caffeine trying to retreat, slows out there from Goku. Look at Li Ming fleeing the damage. Glarong doesn't want them to back away. But it looks like he now accepts his fate. Flash thrown, a bit of poke, and now it's going to be cycling out towards the mid keep here for Gale Force.
It's so hard to find an opening at this point. Gale Force, when they're fighting out in the open, somebody from Roll20 always ends up on their doorstep. They just turn around, taunt, and take them out. But now when they are in Roll20's country, it's hard for them to figure out an opening, especially because of these giant fishing hooks from Justing.
And now Gale Force is bottom boss is their win condition. Top could be, but it's only off of the fight itself because the top fort and the distance of the lane, it's just way too easy to get a defense there from Roll20. You can just fling out spells left and right. So they got the bare minimum, but they definitely did not get a ideal amount here off that last curse. Gale Force, they want this. They don't want to give up the invade. They go in, the taunt, the Curse Bullet. Justing is actually just deleted. Just a fraction of a second, 100 to 0, gone. And now that's a tribute, or excuse me, a night camp for Gale Force. Turns out Curse Bullet's pretty good.
Yeah. The taunt, Curse Bullet, Dream. You've got Mirror Ball, 5 magic missiles in your face too, all of Li Ming damage. And that's what I was talking about. It's like anywhere else on the map other than at Roll20's base, Gale Force will execute anybody.
They're now looking to open up this top fort. This is nice. This is what they have to do. It's going to be, again, just trying to find a way to set up more win conditions. It also helps in the experience race. They'll have the 20 mark, and they'll be able to hopefully set up a party shrub somewhere on the map where Roll20 does not expect them. Catch them off guard, and they actually have a really good party shrub comp. That's not something we often talk about, but just how much insta CC and burst you have, Curse Bullet, Taunt, and Benediction Uther is all you can hope for. Li Ming with that follow-up, it's just nobody should be able to move out onto the map comfortably for Roll20 now from this point on.
Bottom boss in 20 seconds. Gale Force eSports starting to make the rotation in. Seeing that, though, Gale Force are going to go back with Michael Udall and clean it up, but they're getting into position. Gale Force have 20 advantage, and it does feel like the momentum is all in Gale Force's favor. There's nothing really that Roll20 have been able to do to get through the short cooldowns that Gale Force have. The only thing here is maybe if King Caffeine had used taunt, but the cooldown is just so short that you would have it back, but using taunt before everyone else is in position. Roll20 are going to be forced to fight out around this boss without their level 20 Storm talents.
Yeah, this is huge for Gale Force. The fact that they have a 20 advantage and this boss is up. Again, this was because of the curse, how that played out. This is their win condition, and this is the best fight they're going to get. So this is huge for them. It's already down to 50%. You see Roll20, they're questioning if they want to go in. The taunts use cleanse as well. They end up surviving. The boss is still very much alive, but that flash damage coming out there over the wall, and already Justin is dead, but look at Glarong trying with the Dragon Blade. He can't get a reset. The boss is not down.
The boss is not down, but Gale Force eSports are pushing off Glaurung, and they can move back into position.
The stun? It goes on to Uther. He's got redemption, though, so intentional death there. I thought for a second, I was like, oh.
Close to resets. Buds gets back over the wall, but there's Michael Udall too. Gale Force eSports are everywhere in this instance. K1 Pro takes out Brightwing. There's only Genji and Vala left to defend. Some health bars are low for Gale Force eSports, but Akaface has a full mana bar. He'll be looking to heal them right back up.
And I don't think there's any way Roll20 can stop this, especially with that initiation once more showing why this composition was drafted by Gale Force. Didn't think I'd say it, Gilly, but this means Gale Force eSports, in fact, is going to take a lead over Roll20, 2-1 in this series.
Roll20 just had such a hard time dealing with those low cooldown heroic abilities that were high impact. When you pair Taunt and Cursed Bullet together, anybody was a target, even somebody like Stitches. He was scared to be able to move out, even with the tanky Stitches build, scared to move out in a position. That's why he had his fishing hook for long range. But having Putrid Bile, he wanted to be able to drop that down in the locations where they were fighting. It just did not work out for them other than when they were just holding their own ground earlier on. Yeah,
it's a really hard, situation to deal with on the side of Roll20 whenever they fell behind. Especially, I thought after that curse that it would be too much, but then when they can catch people like Glarung or at least split that pressure, it was, I would say, very convenient. The fact that, again, that bottom boss was available in the 20 window, because if I criticize the curse and only getting one tribute. That you would argue, like looking at the end of the game, you'd be like, why? They ended exactly where they needed to. But again, if you change that where they don't get that stack of death, they don't get more experience onto the part of the map, and they don't have 20 advantage, suddenly that boss fight is not as advantageous for Gale Force eSports, and it could have been a total wipe and clean slate for Roll20.
There were, again, some times when members of Roll20, though, were also conveniently in a location where you could turn around and taunt and catch them really quickly. So whether this was a changing communication where they're still trying to figure things out, we know that Roll20 also doesn't run Stitches that often either, and trying to figure out how far out can Justin be, when should Glaurung be flanking from the side as that Genji with the Dragon Blade. You could tell that there was some things being worked out there for Roll20.
Yeah, and I feel like that only put more value into some of the words we heard from Casanova yesterday about learning a new role and trying to learn the warrior role. He's like, yeah, dude, I mean, I can just die in a fraction of a